Hi everyone, and welcome to today's lesson, which is on plant and animal cells. So it's one of those topics that again spans lots and lots of different specifications. Pretty much every single GCSE biology specification, you will need to know this information. Okay, so that's AQA, OCR, EdXL, all of them. So it's really, really important that you understand. Also, when it comes to biology, it's really important that you use the right language, okay? Because you might think, yeah, no, I know an animal cell or I know a plant cell, but it's really, really important that you use the right language so you can get those all important marks in the GCSE paper. All right, so what I'll do is I'll share my screen. I'll be working with some slides. Okay, so it's completely up to you whether you have this particular equipment. I've suggested equipment, okay, like a blue or black pen, maybe a green pen to mark your answers, maybe some lined paper or a workbook. So I think that'll be really, really useful for today's session. If you're watching this on your phone or you're in a place that you can't really write things down, that is completely fine, okay? So you can still kind of take part in the activities. So if you're writing down a title, you can say it's plant and animal cells. We have the learning objectives at the top, okay, just so you know what we're going to be following. So we're going to be recalling the functions of the organelles found in plant and animal cells, which of course are the eukaryotic cells, okay? Hopefully you remember that from a previous lesson. There are eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are things like your bacteria. And we'll be comparing and contrasting animal and plant cells, okay? And of course, we're practicing some of those all-important past paper questions for GCSE. There are some key words here, so let's get started. I want you to think back to year 7, all right? What does an animal cell look like? So what you can do, if you have a sheet of paper, even if it's a scrap bit of paper, that's completely fine. I want you to see if you can draw me an animal cell and, if possible, label it, okay, with any of the things that you might know. If I were to say things like nucleus, if I were to say things like cytoplasm, hopefully that rings some bells from Key Stage 3, okay, whether you learn that in year 7 or year 8. And you might be able, I think it'd be a really good idea to pause the video now and maybe sketch an animal cell and see how many you can label. Okay, so have a look at maybe the one that you sketched. If you haven't sketched it, that's okay. Now they all look slightly different, all right, especially animal cells because they come in all shapes and sizes. Obviously, the specialized cells you do need to know about as well, things like red blood cells or neurons or muscle cells, they come in a different lesson. Okay, so we're just looking at a general animal cell. Now, hopefully you can spot some of these different organelles, okay? Organelles being, you know, what are these dots, or what does this symbolize, or what does this look like? So the organelles are kind of these bits in the cell that we'll be looking at. Right, okay, so I'm really impressed if you've got ribosomes. These are just dots, usually, very, very, very small. And this is where protein synthesis occurs, okay, the site of protein synthesis. Now, please be careful of your language. It has to be quite specific for biology, all right? For example, when it comes to this outside layer, I need you to say cell membrane, okay? Or plasma cell membrane. It controls the movement of substances in and out of the cell. It's not for structure or support. It's not about, you know, again, you have to be quite specific with your language. I really like this phrase, controls movement of substances in and out of the cell. You've got your cytoplasm, the site of cellular reactions. It's basically a fancy way of saying it's got loads of enzymes and it's where reactions take place. You've got these guys, okay, and they're really heavily folded because it's really good that they have a high surface area. These are mitochondria, okay, or mitochondrion if you're talking about one. So mitochondria, generally, it's where aerobic respiration takes place. And again, be specific with your language. Nucleus controls the activities of the cell and where DNA is found. Please don't say it's the brain of the cell, okay? Maybe you learned that in year 7, but that will not get you the marks at GCSE. It controls the activities of the cell and it's where DNA is found. I would put both. If you get a GCSE question that says, what is the function of a nucleus? I would actually put both of those sentences just to make sure that you really get the mark, all right? So It's up to you how you want to memorize this. I think it's a great idea if you have a piece of paper to actually copy it. Okay, so I don't think it's a good idea to copy most things, to be honest, but this is just one of those things you need to know. I think it's a great idea to write this down and then maybe hide it from yourself. Okay, so maybe turn that sheet over and try drawing it again and labeling it again. And from your mind, okay, from your memory, maybe list the functions of the organelles without looking at the sheet of paper. Then you look back and see if you got it correct. That's the kind of active revision you need to be doing, all right? Let's move on to a plant cell. So before I show you a plant cell, again, what I think is a really, really good way to kind of engage in this online lesson is to get a separate sheet of paper, okay, or use the back of the one you've already used. And I want you to sketch what you remember from year 7 or year 8 in terms of a plant cell. It might have some of these things, okay? It might have a nucleus, it might have cytoplasm, it might have some extra things as well. So what I would like you to do is I'd like you to pause this video and I would like you to please draw a plant cell and do the same as you've done with this in terms of, if you can, give the functions of any of the organelles, i.e. what they do, please also write that. Okay, pause the video now and have a go. All right, let's have a look at plant cells. So there's lots of things going on. Again, you might get lots of different diagrams, all right? So this is just an example of one diagram. Plant cells are usually a bit more uniform in their shape. So with animal cells, there's so many different types, okay? And there's lots of different shapes, whereas plant cells, you usually get the standard kind of rectangle. All right, some of these things you might recognize. For example, your head should be going, ooh, I think I recognize that one. I think I recognize this. I think I recognize this, because these were all part of the animal cell. Let's have a look then. All right, so lots more going on in the plant cell. We've got the mitochondria, the cytoplasm as before, the ribosomes as before, and the cell membrane and nucleus as before. So I won't go through those. There are a couple of new things though. We have a cell wall. Yeah, animal cells do not have a cell wall, plant cells do. And this is the function. We should say in our GCSE paper, made of cellulose, which strengthens the cell. Okay, you can say that in your GCSE paper and you would get a mark for it. Over here, these green things, okay, are chloroplasts. And again, the function of the chloroplast is that they contain chlorophyll, which absorbs light for photosynthesis. That should say which absorbs light for photosynthesis. Okay, it's a chemical, chlorophyll, and it absorbs light for photosynthesis. Again, this is just something that you have to learn, unfortunately. All right, we have over here in the middle this big thing called a vacuole. Okay, you may also call it a permanent vacuole. It's filled with cell sap to make the cell rigid. And we'll talk more about rigidity later on in the biology course. But those are the ones, again, that you just have to learn, I'm afraid. All right, so again, what I suggest is hiding it from yourself, drawing it again. Maybe if you've got some revision cards, that'd be fantastic, because on your revision card, you can have on one side, what is the function of mitochondria, and on the back you can have where aerobic respiration takes place, and you can be testing yourself. Or if you've got someone else in your house at the moment, you can ask them to test you as well. Right, eukaryotic cells both have nuclei. Big picture. Remember, these are eukaryotic cells. It means they have a nucleus, true nucleus. Okay. In the previous lesson, you might have looked at prokaryotic cells, which do not have a nucleus. So these are both eukaryotic cells. They both have nuclei, which is the plural for nucleus. What else? Okay, think about what else. Pause this video, list it out loud, ready for the answers in 3 seconds time. So hopefully you remember that they both have a nucleus, they both have a cell membrane. So they both have a cell membrane, they both have cytoplasm, they both have ribosomes, and they both have mitochondria. There's lots that they both have. The plant cell additionally has some extra organelles. Let's have a go at a 6-mark question. This is taken from a GCSE 6-mark question, and it says compare and contrast plant and animal cells. Okay, now look at this command phrase, compare and contrast. That essentially means things that are similar or the same and things that are different. All right, things that are the same and things that are different. It's 6 marks. So what I suggest, if you're a person that kind of gets a little bit confused with their writing, or maybe it's not very precise, okay, I would suggest actually giving 6 bullet points. I don't usually say in a GCSE to write bullet points, but maybe just for now, while you're organising your thoughts, let's go, right, it's 6 marks. I'm going to give them 6 bullet points, or just 6 sentences. And I'm going to say, well, plant and animal cells both have blah, blah, blah. Okay. A plant cell will have chloroplasts, whereas an animal cell doesn't. Guys, to get the really top marks for these 6-mark questions, add a bit more information. Yeah. Why would a plant cell, for information, have chloroplasts where an animal cell doesn't? Okay, so think about that when you're writing your answer. Please pause the video and have a go. Again, if you're watching this on your phone, feel free to kind of do it in your head, or if you're in a place where you can do it out loud, feel free to talk it through. I think it's a really, really good way of learning. Pause the video and we'll go over the answers in a second. All right, so this is kind of a copy of a mark scheme that they're using. So let's go straight to these top marks. All right, so I'm not even going to bother talking through this. I want to go straight to the top marks. To get 5 or 6 marks, you need to have, maybe two similarities and a difference and an explanation. So you need, maybe 2 similarities and 1 difference at least. If you've done more, fantastic. And you need an explanation. So for example, look at the content. All of this you would get marks for. So the similarities, both contain a nucleus, cytoplasm, cell membrane, ribosomes, mitochondria. So if you'd said, they both contain a nucleus and cytoplasm, give yourself a mark. Fantastic. Okay. The differences, the animal cells don't contain chloroplast, cell wall vacuole. Animal cells have an irregular shape. Plant cells have a regular shape. Any of those would have got you between kind of 3 to 4 marks. Okay, so any of those, say if you put 4 of those statements, that gives you 4 marks. What gets you the 5 and the 6, what gets you the extra marks, guys, is the explanation. For example, a plant cell has chloroplasts because they need to photosynthesize. Yeah, or a plant cell has a cell wall because plants require further strengthening and support. Right, so this is the really, really top marks. Again, if you didn't actually get these points, that's absolutely fine. What I suggest is writing them down and using them in your revision so you can remember for next time. Just before you go, I have found this. It's a really recent question, actually. It was only last year. So this was a question in last year's paper. I thought actually it's really, it's new, it's relevant, and the more practice of past paper questions you have, the better. So what I would like you to do now is I would like you to pause this video. I'd like you to read through this 5-mark question. Again, if you're writing it down, fantastic. You're more than welcome to say out the answer as well. I would like you to pause the video and have a go at this 5-mark question. And of course, then let's self-assess. Let's see if you've really understood these learning objectives. So this is for the first part. Okay, so this is for obviously this bit, which is worth 2 marks. You could say that they both have cytoplasm, they both have membrane, they both have DNA, they both have ribosomes. Okay, so any of those is correct. Notice how they said it says 2 similarities between the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So they said DNA and not a nucleus. So if you said nucleus, that's actually not correct, because look at your bacteria cell. This is from a previous lesson. It's really important. Look at your bacteria cell. It doesn't contain a nucleus. Okay, so they're trying to catch you out. That's why this question is really fantastic. They're trying to catch you out. This one says 3 differences between the prokaryotic cell, which is this one, bacteria, and the eukaryotic cells, which are these 2. Again, they've put some fancy names on it because they're trying to catch you out. But a liver cell is an animal cell. Okay, we have a liver, we're animals. A mesophyll cell is from a plant. Again, they're trying to catch you out. Three differences then between a prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cells. All right, so let's have a look at the mark scheme. Any three from these points. Prokaryotic cell is smaller, it has no mitochondria, it has no nucleus, it has a single loop of DNA or plasmids. All right, again, that one's quite tricky, okay, because you have to take in, you have to use information that you've learned in a previous lesson as well. But I thought it was really, really good to practice and try and bring things together from both this lesson and the last. Okay, so really, really well done for today's lesson. Hope you managed to at least get a couple of marks, or maybe if it's just one on these past paper GCSE questions. All right, thank you very much for watching.